We're back on the right hand side of the grill where the motor mounts, and I have a 37-inch heavy duty hex spit set here that we'll assemble and put on our grill. So the spit rod is here. We have a collar, a locking collar. We have our bushing. It's a notched bushing, 4PB02. Our heavy molded handle with a brass insert, a counterbalance weight, and a set of forks. These parts with the bracket set and with a motor is what you would get if you ordered the spit set complete with motor and brackets. The motor that we have is the OneGrill 50-pound capacity motor, and we'll take a look at mounting that up. It's very representative of all the motors that we have. They're all generally about the same size. And one thing that I want to mention is the mounting system on motors. We talked about the 3-inch mount. This distance between these little ears, you'll see they stick out a little bit there, that's called a 3-inch mount. These little ears will go over the motor bracket. So this is a very standard mounting system. Between this 3-inch spacing and this 5/16 square drive in the back of the motor, that is an industry standard for the vast majority of motors and spit sets in the market today. And I mentioned that our spit rod was a 1/2 inch, and it is 1/2 inch hex, but you'll notice on the end that it has a 5/16 square drive staked into it or machined into it, depending on the particular rod. And so this is how we can run a heavier rod and still maintain the standard 5/16 square drive that the majority of the motors have. And so we'll take the spit rod, we'll quickly grab our little collar, spin it on. We're going to take our counterbalance, we'll place it on above the collar, and then the molded handle will screw on to the end of the threads, and we'll snug that up. And that's what holds the counterbalance in place, is the handle squeezing the counterbalance up against this locking collar. So to balance it, we loosen it, we spin the counterbalance, we can move it in and out wherever we want, we lock the handle, and that's where the counterbalance will stay. So let's take a look at actually mounting up the motor, and then we'll slide the rod in and see what we come up with. Mounting the motor. Very simple and straightforward. We have the little tabs for the 3-inch mount on the back of the motor, and all we need to do is slide the motor over this area of the bracket until it bottoms out. And our motor's on and essentially lined up and ready to go. And now let's take a look at what's going on the other side. One very, very important thing about rotisserie systems: this is an electric motor. It runs hot all by itself. It'll run around 130 degrees internal temperature. We have 2 brackets here. Some grills come with a bracket already mounted on the side of the grill. Those brackets typically are about the width of this one, maybe 1.5 inches. Now you've got the back side of your motor within 1.5 inches of a very hot part of your grill, so the heat transfer is excessive into the back of the motor, and that's usually why your rotisserie motors fail. 99% of rotisserie motor failures are because of heat. They're not because of wear or anything to do with the gear train. It's all about heat. And so this installation here, the motor's about 2¼ inches away from the side of the grill. That is a minimum. We even like to see 3 inches. You can use the large offset bracket set to get you there. But there's no insulation here. There's no insulation in this lid. So even when you pull the lid down, you get heat transfer through the rod from the cooking process and through this notch, and you'll have heat come in. Now, our mount is basically a heat shield in this area, and we stop a lot of that heat transfer from actually getting to the back of the case, and we find that we have almost no problems with our motors lasting for many, many years when people installed this bracket system properly in this configuration to keep the heat down. Here's an overall shot of the entire installation with everything mounted up. You get a view of what we're looking at in a big scale. Now we're going to go to the left side and we're going to look at some situations that have occurred that we're going to have to address. Okay, here we are on the left side of the grill. Everything's installed. Let's take a look at what we have to deal with. I think the first thing you'll notice, I've got about 1 inch of insertion into the rotisserie motor, but my bushing being in the notch in the bracket right here, this screw is directly in line with the side of the grill, so it's not going to be able to rotate. I got an interference condition here, so we say, okay, what if I flip it around? Well, we can flip the bushing around, but in this direction what we're going to do is we're going to eat up about 1 inch of the spit rod length, because now this is pushing this whole rod out farther. So now we have a situation where it's fitting in okay. We're not going to hit the base with the screw. The lid should come down and clear just fine, but now I only have about a 1/4 inch insertion into the motor, which is not going to work. It wouldn't take hardly anything at all before it would quit driving. And so if I had a grill base with a notch in it, I wouldn't need this bracket, and I could actually take this bushing and put it into the notch and let it support the spit rod. I would probably turn this bushing around and bring it back in and reinsert into the motor. Get in there about 1 inch like I like to be. This notch would be in the grill base right here. The screw would be inside, everything's to the outside, this bracket would be gone. And now, yes, a 37-inch rod would work fine with this 32-inch wide grill. I don't have that luxury with this particular model, so I need to go to a 45-inch long spit rod to make this work. One more thing that I want you to consider before we leave this side is the notch in the grill lid. You notice the bushing here on the heavy hex rod, and it is about almost 1 inch in diameter. So if we have a situation where the lid has to go over the bushing, then we have to take consideration for how big this notch is. And we're lucky enough here that the notch is pretty wide in this grill lid. This is probably wider than a lot of them. And so we're kind of getting away with this installation here on this end, but if that notch was narrower, then we would need to be farther out with this bracket so that the lid could come down and the notch could be on the inside of this bushing and only have to clear the size of this rod. You also want to make sure you have plenty of room for your counterbalance to rotate between your shelf height and the outer wall of the lid. Now you can see the increased length that we've picked up. We're able to flip our bushing over and put it the way it belongs on the outside of the bracket. We have the screw out of the way, and now our lid's going to close fine. Everything's good. And the other thing is, with this increased length of this rod, it makes it a lot nicer to be able to grab a hold of the spit rod and remove it from your grill by simply grabbing the handle and grabbing out here where it's a lot cooler. The shorter rods, they force you to grab the handle, and now you're going to have to get inside here with a mitt and remove that rod, which is not as preferable as this situation here. So we like to see the customers use a longer rod if possible. We still haven't passed the side of the grill here, so if we're up against a wall, we're still in good shape with the installation. So we're back to our overall view. That's it for the installation of your OneGrill rotisserie spit system. And please check the website for more products. A lot more options in spit rod lengths and brackets for various grills. And we'll see you soon.